Hey, what is up? My name is Chris and welcome to Coding in Public. Today we're working on part 2 of this custom-built audio player just with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Today we're working on the JavaScript. Last time we looked at the HTML and CSS. If you're interested in that, go back and watch the video. If you're not interested, there's a repo with all that code, but I'd encourage you to go look at that because that'll make this video easier to watch because you'll kind of have a sense of how we laid out the actual markup and all that. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm going to just show you a little bit about what we're going to build out today. We're going to make it to where you can play, like you can see in here, and then you can actually jump to the next one, play that one. You can change the speed, and so that's what we're going to do over this video is work on all that JavaScript to set that up. We're pulling this basically from like a server is the way we're setting this up, and then we're adding a couple extra kind of cool things to it as well. But enough talking, let's do it. Okay, so here we are. We've got the basic HTML laid out here. I've got some stuff already kind of stylized for us just so we can picture what it'll look like. Let's do a few things. Let's remove this music image so we can dynamically insert that. And it's already taking up the space because I have it set to an actual height. But for now, we want to actually pull that in with JavaScript. The first thing we need to do, though, is to go ahead and grab some query selectors. So let's do that, some things we know we're going to need. So I know we're going to need a music player, and that will be our document .query selector. And we're going to grab, let's see, that was just music player, and that's actually the kind of white section down there with the play elements and all that. Next, let's copy this down, and what we want here is we're going to want the play button, and here we're going to grab the ID of play, which was on that play button. Then let's copy this down a couple times. And we're also going to need the previous button. And then let's copy this or grab this again, and we'll need the next button as well. We've got those three. And then finally, we're going to need our audio to actually play that. So we'll say document.query selector, and we're going to grab our audio tag. There's nothing in it right now, but that's what we're doing right now. Let's not worry about the speed adjustments or the progress bar, but let's go ahead and grab the title and the image. So here, again, we're going to say const audio title is what we're going to call this, and we'll say document.query selector, and we're going to grab the music title, and then let's copy this down, and we want music image as well. So we've got that, and then finally, we are going to go ahead and populate these songs from a JSON file as if we hit a server and got this back in response. So let's just declare a couple of let variables, and I think my prettier is going to mess this up, but let's try it anyhow. So song index is going to be equal to 0. Yeah, changed that to const. It's all right. We'll figure it out. We'll shift that in just a little bit. Okay, now I mentioned that we have these all in a JSON file, and this would be like what you might get back from a server, where you're going to get this JSON file with songs, with titles and audio, cover, all this kind of stuff. And then these just correspond to what's in our audio folder or our photos folder. And then the title is just whatever we want to put in there, but I just named it whatever the song is named. So we're going to basically visualize what that would look like if you were to go ahead and grab this from a server. So let's go ahead and let's jump down here, and we're going to load our songs from our server. So we're going to set this up as an async await so that if you had like a connection that took a little bit of time to call, you could actually make sure that these things happened in the right order. So we'll call this retrieve songs from server. How's that for a descriptive name? All right, and then we're going to say await here, and we're going to fetch this, and we're going to fetch what could be a URL, but in this case, we're just going to fetch the file that's local there for us. And then we'll do a .then. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump this to the next line so that you can see kind of the breakdown here. But notice this is not a statement. We're not ending it with a semicolon. This .then is attached directly to that. And we're going to say when we get a response, then we want to say if there's some kind of error with this. So if the response, let's see, response is not okay, that's what that bang means up front, then we want to go ahead and throw a new error. And this error will just say network response was not okay. So this would be like if you went to hit the network and somehow the internet went down or something like that, it won't break your program or be crazy for you. It'll actually leave a little error to let them know. Otherwise, we're going to say response .json. And then we're going to attach another dot then to the end of this. And once again, let's space this out so it's easy to see. So assuming we've gotten this response.json back, then we can continue. And we're going to say we want the data that comes back from that. The data would be whatever's passed in. In this case, it would be response.json. That's what we're just going to call it, though, is data. And we're going to say songs, which is that variable we declared up top, but didn't initialize with anything. We're going to say it's equal to songs will be equal to data.songs. And I'm saying data.songs because that's the way our JSON file comes back to us. So we're saying, hey, give us everything in this array in that JSON file. So songs is now equal to data.songs. And let's come back up here. Yeah, okay. Let songs. So that should work just fine. Now we're going to write a function that's called load song. We're going to pass in our songs array that we just got, and we're going to pass in a song index. And that song index is what's up above here that we declared here as 0 for right now. All right, and then finally we're going to actually add a catch here as well. And again, we'll space this down below, and we'll just catch any errors that happen to come. And we'll say if there's an error, then we're going to go ahead and say console.error. There has been a problem with your fetch operation. And then we will actually just add whatever the error is directly in the console so that we can see what that looks like. Okay, cool. So we've got all that set up. Now we need to actually write this load song function. So let's jump up here and we're going to write this underneath update UI with the current song. Again, we're going to call this load song. And it's going to take in a song. That's what's being passed in right here. This index number, that's what's being passed in. Let's hide our sidebar. And this is pretty easy. We're just going to say we want the audio. This is the audio title that we grabbed up top, dot inner text. We want that to now be equal to our song, whatever that object that's been passed in here, dot title. And then the audio dot src is going to be equal to, and we'll do backticks here so we can add that string template, song.audio. And I'll show you what this means in just a second here if you're kind of like, what is going on? All right. Style here for the audio image. And because we've got it set up where it's just the background image of that div, we can add the background image in JavaScript like that. And then we'll say, again, backticks URL. And then we're going to add our template string here of song.cover. And then let's see, we need another parentheses there. And I think that should be good. Okay, so let me go ahead and open the sidebar again one more time and open up this JSON file. All right, and then hide the sidebar so you can actually see what's going on. Okay, so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, give us whatever index. If it's index 1 or 0, that would be here, 1, 2, whatever. And then what we want is the audio title dot inner text to be the title of whatever's here, the song dot title. Audio source is going to be song dot audio, and then audio image will be song.cover. So that's what we're telling it to do. Now we haven't actually run this, so let's come down here, and now we're going to run, what do we call that long thing? Retrieve songs from server. So on page load, we're going to run this. Let's see what happens. Nothing. That's encouraging. We have a missing parenthesis. It'll do it to you every time. Where are we missing this? And I don't think we're missing a parentheses. We are missing a comma here. All right, so now we're getting another problem. At load song, we're getting a problem, style of null. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on here, so let's come in here and let's say, let's console.log. We'll just console log songs here, and then we'll console log it down here as well. So first, it's undefined. That's what it should be. Second, we are actually getting all this stuff here, and it's got everything, so it is pulling in that array properly. Let's see what, actually, let's console.log songs.index, or what was that? Songs, song index, and see what that's giving us. It should be 0. Okay, let's come back up here. Song index is 0. And let's double check what our first one was. Audio.json was happy clappy. That's what we're getting. Okay, so it's fine there. So let's come back up here. Let's see, to our function of load song. And I should have looked a little more careful because it does say style of null. So audio image. Is that what we called this here? Audio image, music image. I bet that's not the right HTML. Music image, IMG. Okay, so that's it. Let's remove this, save it. Hey, now it's pulling in. Okay, so you're gonna run into problems like that all the time. It's okay. That's like half of coding. All right, so I should have just read that log a little more carefully, but now it's pulling that in, which is cool. So it's actually populating it, which also should mean that if we come up here and change the song index to 1, or change it to 2, or change it to 3, or change it to 4, or change it to 5. No, we don't have a 5th. Well, we have a 5th, but we don't have an index of 5. So, okay, so as you change that, it's going to load in whatever one is passed in that song index. So that's cool. All right, now before we start switching which things are happening when we click the left and right arrow, let's go ahead and worry about this little play button right here. So let's come down to the bottom and let's worry about this play button next. So we just called that play button, and we're going to add an event listener on it, which will be a click. And whenever somebody clicks, we are going to say we want to do a few things. First of all, we want to see if it's already playing. And because we just have a single class that's going to be added to everything, we can just check for that class to see if it's going on. So we can say music player.classlist.contains, and then we can just ask if it contains playing. So if I were to go ahead and wrap this here and console log it, console.log, and come over here and then open up my screen, if I click this, it's going to say true. It is playing. And that's because last time, just to see what it looked like, we added this playing class. But if I remove this and come back here, it should say false, and it does. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and add this. I'm going to add this to its own function. I think I did this earlier in my other example, or my initial one that I built out here. So let's write this little function here to just check to see if it's playing. So we'll say function check play status. So we're going to basically see, let's change the title of that. Let's say, is audio playing? That's just going to give us true or false. And so we're just going to return here music player.classlist playing. So if it contains that, it's going to say either true or false. And that means down here, man, this mouse is jumping all over here for me. On this play button section, let's write a ternary that says, is audio playing? So it runs that and it's going to get back true or false. So if it's true, what do we want to do? If it's true, we'll do this question mark. We want to say, if it is already playing, then go ahead and pause the audio because we're clicking the pause play button. And if it's not playing, then we're going to play the audio. Now we need to write these two functions, but we've got them set up here now to where when somebody clicks this play pause button, it's going to first check if it's playing. If it's not playing, it'll play. If it is playing, it'll pause. So speaking of playing, let's come back up this way here and say, let's play audio. So function play audio. There we go. And then because we've got this little audio check running, it's only going to run this when it needs to. So the first thing, of course, we need to do is we're going to add our class. That'll make everything kind of pop out where it needs to and signify that we're playing. So that class was just playing. And now if that's all I do and I come over here and I click, it'll now show it's playing, which is cool. Now pause audio isn't written yet, so when I click it again, it errors out on us, but that's fine. The next thing we want to do is we want to switch from this play button to a pause button. If I come back over here and grab pause, let's see, pause right here, or pause circle. Let's do that. So PH pause circle. So let's do this. Let's say play button. This is what we want to change. Let's run a query selector on that. We're going to look for the I tag, and then we're going to say classlist.remove, and we're going to remove whatever the old play button was. What was it? Play circle? Yeah. All right, so we're going to remove this class and switch it out for the other class. And because phosphor icons, its CDN is basically just calling these, we should be able to just switch those out. So we're going to remove the play one. We're going to add the play circle. So let's come back over here and hit play. Hey, cool. I like that better than the other one I had on my kind of previous example. Okay, next we want to say, let's go ahead and say audio.play. And so we'll actually play the audio. Let's see if this works. Hey, it's working. Cool. Except we can't pause it yet. All right, so let's take this and copy it down. And now we're going to pause the audio. So instead of play audio, we're going to call this pause audio. and we're going to remove playing. We're going to add the circle, and we're going to remove that, and then we're going to audio pause. Okay, cool. And we will need to come in here in a moment, and we'll need to add a playback rate with the audio once we get around to doing that. But so now we should be able to play it. Should be able to pause it. Hey, that's cool. And our things pop out like they're supposed to. All right, we're done. Not quite, but we're getting closer. So we've got it pausing and playing. Now we need to worry about switching back and forth between the one to the left or the one to the right. So let's come back down here. Well, maybe what we should do is before we do that, let's worry about this progress bar and the speed indicator. And then the last thing we'll do is switch it from which track it's playing. So let's update the speed indicator next. Now, in order to do that, we're going to need to jump back up and grab a few more things. So speed adjustments here. Let's grab a variable here. We're going to call it speed indicator is equal to document.querySelector. And we're going to grab the speed. Let's see, we need a class there. And then next, we're going to grab the paragraph inside of that. Let's call this speed number. And then we'll say we want an array here of speed options. And so we can also load this from a server, but I mean, you're probably going to be writing this directly in your code. So we don't really need to do that. So we're going to have the first one will be 1.0, second one will be 1.5, third will be 2.0, and final one will be 0.75. And then we're going to have a speed index, and that will be set to 0, which is probably going to change to a const, yeah, because my prettier, but we'll switch that when we need to. Okay, so let's jump to the bottom here, and let's go ahead and grab that speed indicator button. So we'll say speed indicator dot add event listener, and we're going to listen for a click. And when it clicks, we're going to run a function called update speed indicator. All right, we're going to tell it to run it, but now we need to come over here and let's see, update speed indicator right here. So function update speed indicator. Perfect. Now we're going to say, first thing we want to do is say speed indicator, because we're clicking it, we're going to update it. So we're going to say plus equals 1. So add 1 to whatever the speed indicator currently is. Now, when I save this, it's going to throw an error at me because this is a const and it needs to be a let. I told it. Okay, so now that shouldn't mess up on us. Okay, cool. So speed index next. Now, the first thing we need to do then, or the next thing we need to do then, is figure out if it's at the end of the array so we can jump back to the beginning. So we'll say if speed index is greater than speed index dot length minus 1, so if it's at the end of the array, then go ahead and set our speed index back to 0. So it'll just loop back around basically. And now we can take the speed number, which is the actual paragraph tag there, and say let's update the text content to now. With backticks here, we can add the string. Let's see, here we go. And we can say speed options, and then we'll grab our speed index, and then we'll add x just so they can tell it's 1.5x or whatever. Okay, and then lastly, let's say play audio, so that way it updates the speed. And it looks like this x just needs to move outside here. Okay, cool. So let's play. Okay, it's not updating. Okay, so what is going on here? Well, you might remember that we said down here we needed to actually add, or up here I guess, in our play function right here, our playback rate, we needed to actually determine what the playback rate should be when we hit play audio. So in the audio API, there's something called audio.playback rate. And now we're going to set that. Let's add backticks here. Let's add backticks here. There we go. And we're going to say speed options, speed index. Okay, so we want it to be at that rate. And so now when we come and hit play, cool. All right, so we've got our speed worked out. The next thing we need to work on is our progress bar itself. So let's say did we grab any of these event listeners? No, we didn't. So let's go ahead and grab these now. So let's say progress container. This was the div that held the div up progress. So document.querySelector selector, and we're going to grab our music player progress. And then down here we'll say, actually, let's just copy this down. This was now just called progress, and this is called progress. That's progress. Okay, we got all that. Let's come back down to our progress. So we're going to want to update this in two different ways. Number one, when it plays, we want it to move across. And number two, we want to be able to click on it and adjust where that comes in. And this I got especially from Brad. This was the part that was helpful for me. I went back and looked at how he did that. So you can go to him for more explanation there, and I'll have a card or a link in the description there. So we want to grab the time update on the event listener of the audio, and we're going to run a function called update progress bar. All right, so let's go ahead and run that or write that up top here. So update progress bar width. This is a function, and it's update progress bar, and we're going to take an E, which is just whatever the first thing in that's passed in here. We want to grab a couple things. So first of all, let's console.log E and see what we're getting when we play. So as it's playing, it's getting us all this, and it's kind of wigging out on us here. Let's grab this here. So we're going to look through all this, and we're going to find something we need that'll be able to update the kind of timing as we move here. So we want this src element. We're going to look inside here, and there's a bunch of crazy stuff in here. Now we're going to want a couple things. First of all, we want the duration. All right, we want how long the total clip is. And then secondly, we want the current time right here. So the current time of where it's at. We're going to use those and use a little bit of math to figure out basically how far away our current time is from the duration of the entire clip. So we can destructure these and just say duration and current time. And those will be, we're going to pull those from the e.src element. And then let's say our progress percentage is, and then we can do a little math here to say it's our current time, that's that variable we just pulled out up here, minus or divided by the duration, and then times 100 is going to give us a percentage. And then we can use that to update our progress bar. Did we grab a progress bar? I think we just called that progress. Yeah, progress.style.width. Remember, we had set this last video to 40 just so you could see it kind of move across, and then we put it back to 0 because we were going to update it in JavaScript, and that is what we're doing. Progress percentage. Perfect. Okay, come back in here, and then we do need to add a % sign so that it'll be a percentage there for CSS to handle. So if I come over here, as that plays, it should now move across, which is good. That's what it's supposed to be doing. Why is my audio doing weird stuff? I don't know. Okay, but it is working, and that's what matters. I mentioned we need two things for the progress bar. One was letting it play and move across. The second is we want to be able to click and it to actually adjust and move when the song adjusts. So let's come in here, and the next thing we're going to grab is the progress container, and anywhere it's clicked, so add event listener, we're going to look for a click. We want to run update progress bar play position. And again, this is something we're going to write. Let's go ahead and grab that there and jump back up to our functions. Move audio to where you click. That sounds about right. So we actually do need to grab the event. This is what's coming in, the very first thing that comes in whenever we click. So it's going to be wherever our mouse clicks. And you can get where your mouse clicks on the screen by saying this.client width. So if we're clicking on that progress bar, it's going to give us the width of the entire client. And then similar to what we did with the audio, we're going to use math to figure out where we should adjust the playhead. The next thing we need to grab then is wherever we've clicked. So we'll say click X is equal to e.offset. And the E is the event itself, the click, and we're going to say its offset is left to right inside of that parent, where it stands in that parent. And then we're going to say const, and we'll destructure here again and say duration, and we're going to grab it from the audio itself, and then we'll say audio.current time is equal to, and then again we're going to do the same kind of thing where we say where we clicked divided by the entire width of the container times the duration is where we want you to update the playhead itself to show. And if I save this, let's see, I don't need that extra parentheses. If I save this and I come in here and start playing, I should be able to click and it should update. Okay, it's not, I'm still getting that weird audio. Okay, 94. Audio.current time. And we need to set this as offset X. I think that's the problem. So let's come here, play again. We should be able to click. Yeah, and it updates for us. Cool. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute my computer so you don't have to hear that horrendous sound. Okay, cool. So that is now working. So we can now play it. We can pause it. And as we're playing it, we can jump around wherever we want. And that's great. All right, now what is left? Well, it's basically just moving left and right. So let's do the previous and next buttons next. All right, so previous button, we're going to say add event listener. We're listening for a click. And when that happens, we're going to play the previous song. And then let's go ahead and jump down here and go ahead and just grab the next as well. So I'll say next song, and that should work. Let's come up top here, load previous song. That's what we're after. So function prev song, we're not going to take in anything because all we're going to do is use our song index. And we're going to say now it needs to be minus equals 1. So decrement it 1. Now, I think if I remember correctly, let's see, yeah, it had changed it back to a const, and that needs to be a let. And now my prettier should allow me to do that. So song index is now going to be 1 less. And then we want to check if it's at the very beginning of the array. So we'll say if song index is less than 0. So if it's smaller than the first if it's -1, so if it's not in the array at all, then we want to say song index is now going to be equal to song.length. Songs, I think, is the array .length minus 1. So we'll go to the very last one. And then we're going to load our song just like we would from the server. And we're going to say songs. And same kind of thing that we did for the server. Song index is the song that we want it to load in the UI. And then we're going to update our progress itself. So the progress.style.width, let's set that back to 0%, just so like if we're clicking song after song, it'll update in the UI. It won't have to kind of jump back to the beginning when we jump to the next song. It'll automatically do that anytime we've clicked the previous song because we're obviously playing a new song. So it should start at 0. And then next, we need to check the play status. And the reason I'm doing this is so that if you're playing a song and you hit over, you'd expect it to keep playing. But if you've paused a song and you click over, you're not expecting it to play. So I'm not just going to do, play audio here or whatever. So we're going to first of all check the play status. If that's equal to true, so if it's currently playing, then keep playing audio. Except this time it's going to use that new song index or the new audio file to be. It'll play that instead. Otherwise, if it's already paused, then just pause the audio. That'll work. And again, this is just a simple little ternary. All right, so if I come here and I click this, it should jump to the previous song and the previous song and the previous song. Cool. Check play status. That's not right. Check play. What was that? Audio is audio playing. That's right. I think I renamed that from however I had written it before. Is audio playing? Play status. Where are we at? Here we go. Okay. Is audio playing? Cool. All right. So that's working. Now let's go ahead and just write the same thing for the next song. So next song, except this time we're not going to decrement it. We're going to increment it. So plus equals 1. And now if it is greater than songs.length minus 1, so if it's the last one, then set it to 0. All right, then we're going to do the same thing, load that. That should be the same. This should be the same. All that looks right to me. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and see if it works. So we come here and we play, click over, and that works. Over, that works. Over, that works. Cool, so everything is working as it's supposed to. It's playing. We can jump back and forth. I'd say that looks like a completed project. Now you can come in here and you can play your audio. It'll play for you. You can jump along the thing. Jump. You can actually tab to the bar and click, and it'll speed up your audio. You see it going faster there, and jump all throughout. And because we loaded this from a JSON file, you could just load this from a server as well. Anything like this, and as long as it has objects with these different key value pairs in here, title, audio, cover, all that kind of stuff, it'll automatically update, and you can just add a bunch more here. And these don't have to be local. You could load a remote file somewhere. These are all public domain songs. I'll add a link in the description, and all these images are from Unsplash. Again, just public domain. I just downloaded them and threw them in folders. But now you know how you can load them from a server, and you got a bunch of cool features here with your own specialized audio player. Well, if you like this, leave a comment and subscribe. Let me know what else you'd like me to build out. And if you have any problems, check out the repo where you can comment. I'm happy to help if I can. All right, thanks so much for watching, and happy coding.